You get women that just post about themselves the whole day. En het gaan net oor wat ek vandag aan het en het gaan net, and there's no substance, there's no purpose, and I'm thinking, wake up. You know, it's not just about the shoe and, you know, what you dress and where you coffee today and tomorrow. There is another woman assigned to you.
Firstly, thank you ever so much for spending the morning with me. I so much appreciate it. Let's start by you introducing yourself and then telling us a bit about your childhood or how you grew up. We can start there.
My name is Lizelle and I'm 49 years old and I'm married. I've got 4 children and 16, 9, 25 and 29 years old, yes. And married with an amazing husband and an entrepreneur. I've got a love for people. I think I've just got a love for life, and I would want to believe that I'm a very authentic person. So I was raised by my grandmother, who was from Namaqualander, and she and my grandfather raised me. So I was very privileged. I always say the best children that was ever produced was raised by grandmothers. My mom played an active role in my life, more from a finance point of view. But yes, so I'm the eldest of 2 siblings, 2 sisters, and then I also have from my biological dad, I have 3 sisters and a late brother, which was my only brother and I dearly loved, Jonathan. So, I've always been that girl that wanted more. So my grandmother always used to tell me, you need to, if you want to start dreaming again and you want to become hopeful, you need to stand on your toes and look onto the other side. Now, when I was young, I didn't know what that means, but I've always done it all my life in different ways. Up until currently in my life, I love to just stand on my toes and literally just see, you know, what is there, the possibilities. I like to dwell in possibilities. So yes, Lizelle is an ordinary woman that has always had that desire to become extraordinary, to the benefit of herself and obviously to those around her. So
Fantastic.
I hope that explains it.
Well, that's beautiful. Love it. Thank you. So, Lizelle, tell us, what were some of the key challenges you faced growing up?
I think for me, one of the challenges was that I was, like I mentioned, raised by my grandmother. But then my mom and my dad who raised me, which is not my biological dad, but you could say it's my biological dad, it's like the only dad I knew that raised me. When they decided that I need to come and live with them now, and so that I can bond with my siblings, I think that was very hard for me because all I knew and everything that I knew was my grandmother at the time. But in the era where I grew up, you know, as kids versus today, we didn't have much say. You couldn't decide whether you want to or not. So a lot of decisions was made for you. Back then, you know, if your parents spoke, and that is the order. So I think also, and also instability. I think I can, if I'm really honest, it speaks to instability because, you know, you stay with your grandmother and then there's a break and then you need to go stay with your parents and you get all these, you know, teachings, and everyone is so unique in their way of their dreams and hopes for you. And now that I know what I know, it was a challenge. I just didn't know it at the time. It's all things that I'm figuring out now and get to know now. So I think for me, one of the biggest challenges ever was stability, or the lack of stability.
How have the women in your life, mothers, grandmothers, sisters, friends, influenced you?
I think I'm one of that people, women, or let me say girls, because inspiration starts there, that I was never hung up on a celebrity, or I was never inspired by someone on the TV. I would maybe relate to that person, yes, and I'm speaking about my childhood, But there were few women that I was surrounded by that influenced my life. My mom was one of them. My mom was quiet. My mom was very, she had her own personality and stuff, but she was unique in a lot of ways. I know everyone can say that about their mom, but Marion was, she was my mom, And then obviously my grandmother worked for the Jew from the age of 16 in Sea Point when she came from Namaqualand. That's what she told me, and she ended up, so a lot of her ways was Jewish, a lot of the things that she did, because she was only 16, and I think her employer at the time was a young Jewish lady who was married with 3 children, and she was in her 30s and my grandmother was 16. So a lot of her personality and the way she did life was transferred to my grandmother, who was raised to sort of be that support system for her. So a lot of those things I can now see that is how my grandmother sort of raised me. Then there was a lady in my neighborhood where I grew up. Her name is Myrna, and she had children. I think there's like maybe a 5-year, 10-year gap between us. But Myrna was, when things were tough for me at home and I just wanted to break out, that was the house that I would go to, and the door was always open for me. And then growing up, I sort of just, gravitated towards different people, but it was never one person that I could, stood out and say, this is the person that did it for me. It was indeed a few ladies. Yeah,
takes a village.
It takes a village, you're right.
So if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would that be?
I've asked that question to myself so many times. I have. But, just never stop dreaming, I think. Keep standing on your toes and look on the other side. Because I think we limit ourselves from a very young age, And I think an inquiring mind, a wise old lady once told me, a bird that flies around, I can't remember direct words, but a bird that often flies, and spread their wings is never hungry. Because they always, wherever they go and wherever they fly, they will find something. So, just never stop dreaming. Just don't limit yourself. Always look and dwell in the possibilities, because that's where anything starts, in that possibility. That's what I would tell my younger self, and not limit yourself and in your belief or in your actions. Obviously within reach, it depends. We are so different as women and as children when we grow up. But I think for me, and it shows in my life, that I've always been that one to wanting more. I gravitate towards opportunities and possibilities. So I would say never limit yourself.
That's fantastic.
Keep on flying, keep on being, keep on looking. You will find it eventually. It's not for us to say when and how. But if you're going to stay stagnant and you're going to be positioned, exactly the example, I can't quote the direct words, but what I took from that was, keep on flying, just fly. You will find something.
That's great advice, especially for the young women in South Africa and young girls.
Yes, very important, because you get so comfortable in the space, and most of the time it's stuff that we've been taught. So it's not your desire, it's not what you want for yourself, it's what society decides what needs to be. This is the direction that you need to go. So if you don't have that yearning, if you don't have that desire, I've always had that desire. I knew I'm destined for greatness from small. I might not have known how to get there. I might have not had the right tools. But it is something that has never left me. And if I must give credit to something that has helped me in life to propel or to move from the one level to the next level, however that might be, it would be just to seek possibilities all the time. Just go and look and you will find. That's the best way to describe it.
Specifically in South Africa, everywhere around the world, of course, but specifically in South Africa, I would say it's very clear that people don't all have the same opportunities.
No.
How would you word that? How would you explain what you see on a daily basis, or what your personal experiences have been, and how you actually made a road for yourself to your destination?
I think back then I didn't quite have one word, but I would now describe it as like it's a dream. You know, I think everybody, you get fantasies, you get dreams, but even a fantasy changes your mindset. If you fantasize about something, and I'm talking about good things.
So if you visualize it,
yes,
if you can see it, you can perceive
you
it.
can become it, yes,
exactly.
or you can live it.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. It has to start from somewhere, and that is the possibilities that I refer to. Because if you don't dream, and if you don't seek after, if you're not inquiring, if you're not that type of person, then nothing is, if nothing is happening, nothing is going to happen. So I think it starts, the opportunities are there. Yes, I get it. I'm one of that people. I honestly can't say that I grew up poor. I can't say that I grew up suffering. I know that when I needed school shoes, it was provided. It might have not been the top of the range, but my school shoes was provided.
So there was no need. Everything you needed. It's the typical thing. You don't
Yes.
always get what you want, but you had what you needed.
I had what I needed.
That's all
and
you
that
need.
is why I cannot relate to, you
Yeah.
know, some people would say like, I grew up like this and I grew up in, and it also depends what you take of that upbringing, and just be honest with yourself. Like we and even today in my life, we were not the type of, and that's probably why I'm that mom. Like I don't dwell in shopping centers. I don't dwell in spending money. There's just a lot of things.
You're not high maintenance.
I am not high maintenance. Yes, that's what my husband tells me. I think that was one of the
Ideal
attractions.
woman.
Yes, I am not high maintenance. Yes. I'm a better partner and bolder than high maintenance. Yeah, that's a nice way of describing a thing.
So what legacy do you hope to leave behind, and how do you want to be remembered?
That is very dear to me. That's a moment for me. That's a biggie for me. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dr. Miles or Bishop Miles Monroe. He's a man of God. He's also a motivational speaker. He's from the Bahamas.
Okay.
And his desire was always that he wants to die empty. He don't want to take anything to the grave. He wants to, and he managed that. And that has become one of my desires, to impact people because if you impact one person, you stand a chance to impact a generation.
So to give all of you,
Yes.
while you have the time.
Yes, because
Beautiful.
I also realize that the older you get and the more intentional you start living, it becomes less of you and more of others. And I think legacy has never had so much meaning to me as to when I started intentionally now resetting my life, reinventing myself, finding myself first and then reinventing myself again. Especially over this year, legacy is not just a word anymore for me. It now has meaning again. It was one of those buzzwords for me. It's not, it's got meaning for me. Legacy is what I want to be associated with. Legacy is a statistic that I want to be a part of. And one of my biggest desires in terms of my legacy is that I am able, and I every day, almost every day if I'm honest, I ask God to grant me that grace to be able to map out a legacy for my children and their children and their children's children. That is how important and serious it became for me. It is now personal. Legacy is now personal because I realize if I'm not going to do it, who is going to do it? How legacy is something that passes the baton onto. So that legacy, whatever that might be, and it differs for people to people. For some people it's financially, for some people it's tradition, for some people it's, whatever that might be. Of late, and I've taken, because I'm beginning to follow people that are prominent, making a difference, people like yourself that impact me, and I see, what do they do? Again, coming back to, let me look on the other side. Let me see what people do,
We
because
learn from each other. You're
there's
so
just
right.
so much inspiration everywhere. There should be almost no room for somebody to be in a negative state of mind, because there is so much inspiration around us. If you just put your foot in your garden, there's a flower there, that's an inspiration. So for me, legacy has just taken another form, and one of the things that I'm believing to be, and that I'm speaking into existence, and that I intentionally pursue every day, is to leave my children with an inheritance and not a bill. And when and that is the financial side of it, and then also leave my children with almost like, if I may call it, a lack of a better word, a business plan for our lineage. Something that they can refer back to say, you know what, on a Friday night, for years we ate burgers. So those traditions, because a lot of us don't have that foundation. And I realized I got to that point now, if I'm not going to take this opportunity and start doing that, because I'm past the stage of now beating myself up for things that did not happen and blame my parents, because as a parent I realize we do the best at that time that we think is the right thing to do. Whether it is, we don't know. So now I'm intentionally so grateful for this opportunity that I still have the grace now, and I have the wisdom, and I have the mindset, and the health for that matter, to now start carving, the right thing, because time is actually more valuable than anything.
Absolutely.
So in a short space of time, you can accomplish more than what you've lost over years. So what you thought you didn't have in the last 20 years, if all of these other things fall into place, you can accomplish it in so much less time, maybe in a year or in a month or even in a day. So time has just become more valuable. So I'm like, legacy for me is now something that if you have the time now, use that time to build that legacy.
All about attitude.
Yes.
Perception of your
Yes.
your world,
Yes.
and what you would like it to look like.
Yes, and I don't think it's something like, yes, we need mentors, and yes, we need people also to speak life into me, but I think the biggest thing for me, especially over this year in my transformation, because girl, I've gone through hell. I've been I'm just gonna keep it real, like depression. I became one who became a master pretender. Just, I'm good, I'm well, but inside I was dying. So when I got that opportunity to find myself again and so you are really, yes, God is the author and the finisher of our lives, but you are your biggest project. And that's what I fell in love with. I'm my biggest project. I decide how I want this project to go. I decide the timelines and the time frame. I decide the resources that I'm deploying or applying. So I just became the biggest project of myself. And I think that's the safest, it's the best way. Yes, you learn, you get inspired, different things, different people inspire you, but ultimately it comes down to you.
Got to take responsibility of the self.
Of your ability.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what it is.
So with all this wisdom,
It doesn't feel like it. It felt.
when does that switch go on?
It actually feels like I've just started to learn. I think the switch has always been there. I think my light was just dimmed by life. This is now not blaming this one and that one and this situation and that circumstance.
Because life happens.
Life happens. I think I was just dimmed out. I think that light has always been there, but it was just dimmed out. But the aha moment for me was enough is enough. When I was truly honest with myself to say that Now you have to decide. I got to that point on my knees. Yes, for days I was weeping before the Lord. I wanted to know, what is your purpose? Because surely I was not meant to suffer like this internally. Surely I was not meant to feel the way I feel forever. So what is it? What needs to change? And I realized, and with asking those questions, and people experience it differently. I call mine a lockdown with God. Like I said, God, strip me from fakeness, strip me from pretense, like uproot. I'm giving you the permission because I cannot do it anymore. And I think that was the aha moment for me. And it was one morning, I was still in my depression and I was lying in bed, and I saw a lady's video came up on Instagram, and this lady say, that kitchen in that house that you prayed for and that you want is dirty. And no one is going to come from the outside to come and clean that kitchen for you. You need to get up and go and clean your kitchen. And I think, and as she mentioned these things that she says, no one is going to come from outside and come do it for you. And that no one includes your husband. It includes the closest. Yes, they are there as a support, but everything, the desire, the will, the want to, it has to come from you. It's an inside thing. And I think that is where the light went on for me. You know what? No one is going to come, because for months no one came. What was I waiting for? Like, what was I thinking? So I think everybody gets to that point where you get that aha moment. And I always say God is not going to quickly come down on the cloud like we believe and see, or some people do, and just come down and quickly fix whatever needs to be fixed and then go back again. No, He's inside of us. So I needed to find that inner strength. I needed to find that, and if I think back now versus back then, being honest with yourself is where it starts, because so many of us want the change and we want to be redeemed and we want to transform, but it's halfway. You want it, but you don't want whatever comes with it. It's not a magic wand. It's not a click of a finger. You have to tap into yourself. You have to go and find it there. And you know what the beauty of it is? Finding it in yourself. It's yours. So you decide the measure. You are in control of it. So if imagine you had to rely on somebody else's strength. I'm not talking about God's strength. That's the obvious. I'm talking about just someone you admire. That person can take that strength away from you anytime and every time. So it's never yours. But if you yourself tap into your abilities that I believe all of us was given, however it was. Some people say it's skill, some people say talent. I call it abilities. And you just start taking responsibility for that ability. You become unstoppable. And I think that's where I find myself. That I, Lizelle, feel that I'm really unstoppable in a sense that, and it's not unstoppable from an authoritative way, because I like to be a woman, I like to be a girl. I've got a lot to learn, but I like being, representing a woman, and when you get to begin to understand that all that you need is like inside of you, and you now start exercising that right of activating and developing it, you do become unstoppable in your space. It's and with that, for an example, I mean, like, I don't need someone to tell me that I need to go exercise anymore. I don't need someone or rely on someone to tell me, drink a little more water. I am beginning to train my brain and to tap into that ability of decision making that I have now to get me to that point, which obviously comes with all the benefits. So that for me is tapping, inside, relying on what you have inside instead of going to take the inspiration, but rely on yourself, what you have, because that way you own it. It's not like in our upbringing. I think we just take on so many layers of things. There's just no foundation. A lot of women, if I must say that, doesn't have a foundation because your mom never had it, and you now need it, and her mom never had it. So when is it ever going to happen if we don't start zooming into these things?
Break the cycle.
Exactly.
Start
And
something new.
keep it simple. Start somewhere. Just keep it simple and start. And I think from there, everything, just because my transformation didn't just start all at once. And still I'm a work in progress, but I fell in love with it because every day I have, this week I didn't drink as much water as I'm supposed to. I take the decision from tomorrow onwards, I'm back onto my water.
Your own responsibility.
Your biggest responsibility.
I often call it shadow work. I see it, I think I read it somewhere, and I see it as shadow work, where you really get to know yourself. You take off the masks, because many of us wear masks. Where you really strip all of that down and you really get to know yourself, who you truly are, what you believe in, what your values are. But I do find that lots of people don't want to do the work, because shadow work is work. It's hard to look at yourself, really look at yourself, and be honest with yourself.
Yes. It comes with a sacrifice, because a lot of, like I said, we become like onions. We take on all these layers. It's like a snowball effect, you just, even whether it's your outer appearance, whether it's inward or outward, you just take, that is how this world is designed. We take on so many things that is not authentic to ourselves. And then we, unfortunately, in most instances as women, we get to that point where all of us, because conscience is real. There is shadow it's the first time I actually hear of someone referring it in that way. Like it is really that, it's a shadow, and it doesn't come without a sacrifice, and the sacrifice doesn't always mean it's bad and heavy and ugly. But it requires sacrifice.
It's work.
It's work,
Because you may not always like what you see when you're truly honest with yourself. You've got to work through it.
I think that's the part we run away from. Who am I?
Yes.
Who am I?
We spoke about this briefly previously. You mentioned that you went through a stage in your life with menopause and all of that.
Yes.
Do you want to touch on that? Are you comfortable touching on that?
Yes, I am. I think it's a topic that is still not spoken enough about. I tried. I thought I'm the only one in menopause, suffering menopause. I do get it. Not everyone is like Lizelle that moved out. It was even a challenge for my husband, because I am older, like 6 years older than my husband. So it was also a challenge for him, but I had to take him back. And again, it comes back to, you are your own project first. So I had to make him understand that this is not a reflection on you. It's not a reflection, a bad reflection on us. It is a phase and a transition in my life. And if I'm not going to embrace it, and if I'm not going to deal with it, it's going to challenge us. It's going to cripple us. So I didn't even know I had menopause. Menopause is a word that was never when I was in my 20s and 30s, no one ever spoke about menopause. Maybe it's something you would see in a True Love magazine, because I was that girl. Same way people buy the huisgenoot. I was a True Love magazine. I think it's still in my corporate days. Every month I will have my True Love magazine. And menopause was something that I would pass in the book, because it's menopause, it's not me. And I've always felt younger than what my age was. I think I relied a lot on my genes. I don't know, I've got good genes.
Fantastic genes.
Thank you, Jesus. So I never thought that it would get to me. I thought I would remain my original form in your best years, your 20s, 30s.
Stay young forever young.
I'm telling you. And then all of a sudden it just hit me, and I'm like, I've never been sick. I've never been like this. And it got so bad for me for years. So I think from the age of 38, I might have started with perimenopause. And then, but obviously then you do other things. Like I used to like to take a drink. I was a beer girl. I loved beer. And I was a smoker. So for me, like those things, you don't get to deal with them because you have other things that numb them. Or you fill that void, you know. If I have anxiety, it's easy to take a smoke because you forget about it for that moment, but you don't deal with the problem. But I didn't know. I lacked the knowledge. And then going forward, and then obviously it got worse as the years went by. And before I know it, I think I found myself full on menopause. And it's when it became a problem because the weight increase in weight was heavy. I ate like a pig. I just couldn't get enough of eating. Portions is bigger. My feet started swelling. Impatient. All of these, you know, hot flushes, irritability. I was so scared when I was alone of what I was going through, and I didn't want to share it with my husband because I thought, oh, we're gonna end up, you know, I don't like calling out that word,
yes.
but I thought he's gonna trade me in. I can't say anything. I can't put on the red flag with the alarm because what he signed up for is not what he's getting now. So you know how I'm going. So I was scared. Like I used to cry in the shower. Other people sing in the shower. They're pressing the shower hour. I used to cry because that is when, you know, I look at my body and I'm honest in how I feel, and everything is just heavy. It's a weight, like I have to go fetch myself to do. And then I think one day I found him Googling, I said, why are you reading up on menopause? And he was so desperate for an answer. He wanted, and he's an engineer. He's very, you know, so I think he just tried to pinpoint like what gaan aan, like what is going on with this woman. I became a monster. I think my daughters left home prematurely. They just couldn't live with me anymore. And outside is fine because I spent very minimal time outside. I started isolating myself, especially when walking became heavy. I've got friends that can attest to it. Walking was an uphill for me, and a lot of people don't realize that. I had swollen feet for days and it was bad. And so we went on, and I ended up at a public hospital and, you know, got diagnosed with a thyroid through menopause. So it was that also. And then I grew a goiter in my neck, which affected my self-esteem. And I've always been a confident person. Not overconfident or arrogant, but I've been a confident person. I mean, if I get asked to speak, then I'll speak, you know. And all of that was just chipping away with all these symptoms. And then I found myself in a depression, which was never part of my being. Never thought that I would be one of that statistics. Thank God I'm not there anymore. It's horrible. It's you know, I used to be one of that people when I was in my prime. I would say, man, get over it. Depression, selective. I had all the words. I was so insensitive towards people that because I had no idea until I found myself there. So it was serious, but again, I got to that point where enough was enough. And I think that was the aha moment for me, like you say, where the switch went on. And here I am, almost a year and 5 months later, came across an amazing community that stands for health. And it came with, you know, that I got the knowledge, and I realized that it's okay to take supplements, and it's okay to go for walks, and you know, just seeing that there is a life called normal out there, because what I thought is normal was not normal. And then of course desperate, gravitating towards it, and it was one of the best decisions I could make. And it got me out of the menopause. Now menopause is a bliss for me. From the kitchen to the bedroom.
So it's education. I mean, we need to educate.
It is
create
just
awareness.
That. Yes, it is. And there is just not enough awareness. With I saw there's a few celebrities that came out. Hailey Berry is one of them, Michelle Obama speaking about menopause. But in South Africa itself, it is still a taboo. It's still unspoken. And only because it is lack of knowledge, it's been associated with age. I am not shy. I've never been one that twisted my age. So I've always embraced it, still today. But I think menopause are just one of those things that people, because of we lack knowledge, we associate with age. Yes, it is, but it's not a bad thing, you know. So now, going to my 50s, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be turning 50 next year. And if I think back almost 2 years ago, it was an uphill for me. I was scared. When it comes to a birthday, like, don't even mention it's going to be my birthday, because of obviously what I'm dealing with. Now I remind them. Yes, next year.
Mommy's birthday. Yes. Where's my candles?
Yes,
Let me make a wish.
Yes.
I'm so glad you're back.
Yes, no, I am. Like, my mom used to tell me that, you know, she always used to say to me, you must go look for Lizelle. You must find Lizelle. I think in her heart of hearts she also knew, but also, you know, if you're not schooled in a subject, you have very little to say about it, and especially when it doesn't come from the inside. So I think, yes, my mom probably also saw, because there was a time in my life when I rebelled. I like just out of spiral. I just numbed whatever I was going through because I didn't know. So I would be, you know, I'll go out. I used to love dancing. I used to love club life in a responsible way. It wasn't just any kind of going out. It was nice places, but I used to feed off things which could have been to my detriment, you know. But thank God for His grace over my life, and now I'm able to do it all the right way. Yeah.
That is fantastic. Again, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. I need to give you
Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you
thanks
so much.
for your time and for sharing and your bravery, and I just appreciate you so much. And I hope many girls and other women would watch this, and we could all learn, as I said, from each other. We all have our own stories and experiences, and just forever grateful for you for being willing to share it. And there, with that, the question, you are happy for me to share this?
Yes, I am, and one of the things I just want to mention quickly is that I really mean it, that we are our biggest and first and foremost project, if we call it that, and we will forever be a work in progress. But I think an inquiring mind and just wanting to tap more into yourself, you will eventually, you know, get out what you need to. But transforming is a lifelong thing. You just never arrive. Even now, I still learn from women every day. I'm hungry because there is more into it, and it is so beneficial. So yeah. Just as I inspire, I get inspired, and you inspire me.
You inspire me.
So yes, I mean, life just becomes
we'll
beautiful.
be each other's cheerleaders.
I know. So yeah, I'm particularly grateful for this opportunity. I mean, this to me is just a reflection also. As much as it inspires someone else, it inspires me to say, wow, because having to tell the story, I know that we didn't go into the depth and the detail, and maybe there'll be a follow-up for us to do.
Definitely do.
But yes, there is just so many things. So when you come from that place and you get to this place, and you even have foresight of the possibilities of where you can go, it just makes life so much enjoyable. And I get inspired by it because I once was there, and through other people and women in particular inspiring me and learning, never to stop learning, I was able to move from the one place into the other, and now from here I'm excited to see where 2025 is gonna take me.